Yo guys, what is going on? This topic has gained a lot of traction, so by the looks of it, today we're going to be talking about Naruto Storm 5. I can't believe those words just left my mouth, but I'm kind of happy they did, I guess. But yeah, it looks like a storm is brewing, and the news has taken many by storm, but okay, I'm not pulling your leg, though. This isn't clickbait, so let me try and bring you all up to speed, even though I'm kind of late to the party myself. But you already know that's not going to stop me from talking about this at length, because I've really got no reason to be evasive of this topic. In fact, I wanted to cover this about 2 weeks ago when the news dropped, but I was kind of indisposed due to exams and stuff like that, and I didn't really want to rush it. I felt like I was kind of like, woefully unprepared to talk about the topic, as I hadn't even properly processed it yet. So, yeah. If I don't sound that enthusiastic, it's not because I'm not, it's just that it kinda is, I find it increasingly difficult to get hyped for things, and even though this announcement should, in theory, be music to my ears, like the most hype thing ever, given how I've been through thick and thin with Storm 4, and considering how it's my favorite game, or one of my favorite games, there are a lot of things to take into account here, so let's get down to brass tacks. So remember how I made, two commentary videos about this game by CyberConnect 2. Basically, CC2 said how they would announce a new game in February, and how the game would be released in summer 2022, and how it was sure to blow up 100%. So naturally, this led to a lot of speculation, but the only thing they ended up announcing in February was Demon Slayer Hinokami Chronicles for the Nintendo Switch, leading a lot of people, myself included, to believe that this was the big announcement, like basically a giant middle finger. But then, shortly after February ended, basically, they announced a new JoJo game. But it's not really new from what I could understand. It's just a remaster of their old JoJo game. But this can't be the big project, right? So anyway, I mentioned Senju in Japan in my previous videos as well. Basically, he's a YouTuber who's in bed with CC2 or Bandai. He's got some connections, and I'm not entirely sure myself, to be honest, but he didn't just hear it through the grapevine from some untrusted source. He's in the know for a lot of things, and he is credible. He is reliable. So if you're on the fence with regard to whether this news is real or not, don't be. It's legit, 100%. He was spot on for a lot of things. He made predictions for Demon Slayer characters and DLCs, which were totally accurate, and he even knew how the demons would end up playing, so he definitely knows a thing or two about what CC2 was planning. Now, basically, he's been hinting at this competitive shonen title by CC2 for over a year now, if I'm not mistaken. And he's been dropping clues and cues for people to pick up on his Twitter, like Riddler type beat. He would post a gif of Gone and everybody would be like, oh my god, it's a Hunter x Hunter game! So he said how the game that will be announced in February would not be the game that he had been hinting at for so long. At least that's how I understood it. So this led me to believe that the game that CC2 would announce in February would be some kind of side project, especially given how it would be announced in February and would then come out in 4 to 5 months. Because, their big titles usually take about a year to be released. So, long story short, about 2 weeks ago, he basically, quote-unquote, leaked Storm 5. Now, I say quote-unquote because this isn't really accurate since he didn't exactly leak anything. He just said, yeah, a Naruto game by CC2 is definitely coming, a successor to Storm, a Storm 5, if you will. So this kind of begs the question, if he's been hinting at this game for so long, why reveal it now? Up until recently, he was keeping a moderately, a somewhat low profile. He even said how he doesn't know when this game will be announced. It could be soon, it could be later this year, but the game has been in development for a full year. Though, he might know more than he lets on, honestly. But I guess he can't just spill all the beans immediately because apparently he's got eyes on him, because that's what he said himself. So let's get a couple of things straight here. First of all, this game most likely won't be called Naruto Storm 5. I think that name is a bit misleading. CC2 said on multiple occasions how the Storm series was basically done. Naruto's story is over, it ended with Shippuden, and Storm 4 covers the end of Shippuden plus Road to Boruto, which covers the Momoshiki arc, basically. Not to mention that we literally have the last characters and costumes in Storm 4, except for Toneri, because, Hanabi is obviously, she's apparently more important. Not saying that I don't like Hanabi, I'm just saying, it's kind of criminal we didn't get Taneri. So the game that we're expecting right now is most likely going to be a Boruto game, and it'll bear a different name, like, I don't know, Boruto Next Generation Ultimate Ninja Blaze or something. I don't fucking know. But the game should be the same as Storm in terms of mechanics and the very concept itself. But of course, there is a chance that this might actually be a Naruto game somehow. Like, unlikely, but, who fucking knows with CC2, honestly. Now, the main question I have is, if this is really a successor to Storm, I'm assuming that implies that this game will be like an arena fighter, but just to what extent will this game be Storm? Like mechanically and visually and all that. Like, are they gonna keep Storm's mechanics, or are they gonna start a new engine from scratch? Like, I'll make an educated guess here, and I'll say that they will keep Storm's mechanics, like the OG mechanics, like Storm 4, with some minor changes. At least I hope this will be the case. Like, I don't want them to stray too far away from the original formula, and I mean, I think we can all agree that, like, CC2 excels at visual fidelity, and they're, like, pros when it comes to eye candy in anime games, and really it only takes a cursory glance to see that they're basically peerless. Like, so I think we can be at ease on that front. I mean, like, look at Demon Slayer or Storm or Kakarot. Like, visually, these games all got the edge over other anime games. So in that department, the only game that I can think of that can give CC2 a run for their money in terms of, like, visuals is, I guess, Dragon Ball Fighters, kind of. But, yeah. So my main concern is the mechanics. And this is where things start getting polarizing, for lack of a better word. So, on the one hand, you got people who want this to be a completely different game. They want this to be more like Demon Slayer or some kind of 2D game like Dragon Ball Fighters, because 2D is all the rage now. Everyone's got a hard on for it. So we all know that every Storm game had its own slew of issues, and there's always a litany of complaints to be made for every game. So let's take a trip down memory lane and think about the one step forward, two steps back practice that CC2 is notorious for when it comes to the Storm games. So Sheikah's Clouds made a video like 5 years ago about the pros and cons of every Storm game in order to demonstrate how CC2 always takes one step forward and then two steps back when it comes to adding and removing features, which is really, this practice is just par for the course with CC2, honestly. So, as much as I adore Storm, I'd simply be remiss not to talk about some of its flaws. Not all of them, because it's, kind of hard to keep track of everything, but yeah. So, Exhibit A, Storm 1, or, well, Storm. It had free roam, it had these introductions before every fight, it had long ultimate jutsus, jutsu clashes, wall running, but the movement was incredibly slow, and as a matter of fact, the game is low-key unplayable for me. It's just too heavy and clunky, but back in the day it was revolutionary, obviously. Exhibit B, Storm 2. It added online, and the story was also better. I mean, Storm 1 barely even had a story mode. Like, it was hardly even, like, you fought Kimimaro, but not the Sound 4. You didn't even have the Hakuzabuza arc. However, Storm 2 removed free roam, and it also removed jutsu clashes, wall running, intros. It was a lot more minimalistic. Storm Generations added the substitution bar, faster gameplay, air chakra dashes, more freedom with cancels, but there was no story mode. Storm 3 removed the side combo, like the fourth combo. The gameplay was also, a lot slower. They added Instant Awakenings, though. That being said, I don't think Instant Awakenings are a good thing, but, more about that later. So Storm Revolution introduced drive types, and it also divided characters into Awakening, Ultimate Jutsu types, and drive types, so you had to choose one of these types, and Awakening types were so OP, because, like, they both had, you had both the Instant Awakening and the True Awakening, and you could spam this like crazy. Now keep in mind, Instant Awakenings are pernicious to the game. Every advanced player will tell you how easy it was to abuse them in Storm 3. So, that's just my 2 cents. And finally, Storm Revolution also introduced the counter, the full counter, which made it so that countering an opponent would stun them for like 5 fucking seconds, giving you no time to do whatever the fuck you want. Oh, and also they removed spectator mode for tournaments, so yeah. Storm 4 had better visuals. It introduced the leader switch mechanic, which made the game so much better, gave it so much more complexity. They also added rounds to matches. They fixed the counter. The gameplay was a lot faster to boot. But Storm 4 takes the cake when it comes to the amount of glitches. Like, it had a copious amount of glitches, the likes of which I've never seen, and it had a lot of characters that simply needed nerfing. I mean, the previous Storm games were also hamstrung by their own share of glitches, but Storm 4 was chock full of them, and they're really brought to the forefront the more you play, and they really do a great disservice to the game. Now, keep in mind, some people think that all of the removed features need to be back for Storm 5. But I beg to differ, honestly. I personally don't think that jutsu clashes and wall running are really a necessity. I can totally see why they got removed. So Storm 1 was an exclusively offline experience, and having jutsu clashes every second in online would waste too much time, not to mention that it's basically just a mash fest. And on top of all that, most jutsus in later Storm games aren't even cinematic. Like, most jutsus are just projectiles, like fireballs or water dragons, and they're not jutsus like the Chidori or the Rasengan. And as for wall running, most maps in Storm 4 don't even have walls, and let's be honest, like, wall running was frankly kind of weird in Storm 1. I personally didn't like it. Like, I like the concept, but it just didn't work for me. As for shortening the ultimate jutsus, I personally loved the long ultimate jutsus in Storm 1, but I think they shortened them in Storm 2 and Generation so that they wouldn't take up too much time in online matches, but then they gradually started making them longer again to the point where Momoshiki's ultimate is like 23 seconds long and Adult Sasuke's is also around, that length, but you get the point. I'd say that Storm 4 fares really well in comparison to its predecessors. Like, it's without a shadow of a doubt the best Storm game in terms of gameplay and visuals. Like, in that respect, in those respects, it's unparalleled. And, even if we factor in all of the glitches. But yeah, that's all water under the bridge now. Now we're talking about Storm 5. So now that I've jogged your memory regarding CC2's decisions when it comes to adding features and, subsequently taking them away, the question I have is, what will they add/remove in this new Storm game? Or rather, what would I like to see added or removed? So I'm going to be spitballing some ideas here, and if you think, oh my god, do you really want another Storm 4 with minimal changes? Well, you're fucking A right I do. I mean, and I don't care if I die on this hill. Like, I'd say if it ain't broke, don't fix it, but in Storm 4's case, it is broken, and it's in dire need of fixing. Now, I'm not saying it's all peaches and cream, so don't get your panties in a bunch. Don't jump the gun yet, because, but provided that they fix the game and zero in on fixing every glitch and maybe, speeding up the gameplay, adding some nice features, I simply see no need for any major changes. Like, it'll all be hunky-dory. So, first of all, they need to bring back side combos. This is a stupid, like, I'm not doing this in order because it's not really a priority, but they really should bring back side combos. Now, I understand that side combos were removed because they were simply, too lazy to make more combos per character. And it's the same reason why they shorten combos. For example, the combos in Storm 1 and 2 and Generations, they were a lot longer than the combos in Storm 3, Revolution, and 4. But the combos in Storm, Revolution 4 had way better cinematic finishers, especially in Storm 4. Like, they were a lot more creative. They were shorter, but, it wasn't just punches and kicks. They were incorporating jutsus mid-combo, for example, a Chidori and stuff like that. But yeah, I would also like to see stage transition. I think that would be really cool. Like, it's a thing in a lot of fighting games, like even Jump Force. Stage destruction is a thing in Storm 4, but only for the Leaf Village. Like, that's like 3 maps, and it's not really all that breathtaking, honestly. So, I'd also like to have the option to select like day, night, evening time for every stage, maybe the weather even, though for some reason I don't really think that's on the cards, but yeah, a guy can dream. I also want dash cuts to be removed completely. I mean, bro, who fucking asked for that? Like, the game was fine without them, but then it got skewed in favor of zoners. And, I think that removing dash cuts would also obviate the need for playstyles that aren't that good, but are carried by this mechanic. So, yeah, the netcode is arguably the most important part because Storm 4 is borderline unplayable for me, at least on PC. And I know it's not that much better on the PS4 and PS5 and Xbox, but most players are either red bars or yellow bars, and there's like a 2 to 3 second delay. And even with blue bars, you'll sometimes you'll get this really bad connection, right? This really like a whole second of input lag, and it really makes me not want to play the game, basically. So fixing the netcode would really, work. It would work like a charm. It would really go a long way. And yeah, on top of that, ranked is completely fucked. Like the leaderboards don't mean anything. You can literally insert another guy's save file and you'll have his BP and you'll climb up in the leaderboards. Like imagine a game where your rank is dependent on your save file and can be changed in accordance with it. Like not to mention that you can only get up to like 99,999 BP, and some guys were even able to hack this on PC. Like the first two guys on PC have like 30 million BP. Like it doesn't even fit the Ninja info card. But yeah, rage quits, they also don't get punished. Like, you can simply rage quit an infinite amount of times, and the other person will simply not gain BP, and, you won't lose BP. And you can have up to, like, 256 disconnections, and people can see that, and they might want to avoid you. But there's a way to rage quit without the disconnections even being registered, so, people won't even know. And there should be some kind of penalty for this, like a cooldown or something. Like you can literally ruin somebody's win streak. Like for example, you can win 5 matches in a row, and then you need the sixth win to rank up. But then your opponent rage quits, and guess what happens? Yeah, you lose your win streak and got to start all over again. It's completely nonsensical. I don't even know, man. Like it's so fucking stupid. But anyway, yeah, one of the biggest issues in Storm 4 is the broken characters and certain broken jutsus, broken tilts, broken awakenings, broken hitboxes. I would say that's literally 80% of the game's problems, honestly, in terms of gameplay. Like certain awakenings like Danzo, Asuma, Six Bats Madara, they're just egregious. They're unbeatable. They're insta-wins. Well, not in all cases, but you get the point. Like Danzo has infinite range in his awakening. He's got a free sub, a one-hit KO jutsu that wins the game, and like his brokenness is just through the roof, honestly. Neji, Storm 3 Kakashi, Yugito, Nagato, Temari, Tayuya. Like, there's so many broken characters that are just outright banned in tournaments, along with dash cuts, because every dash cut is banned in tournaments. Then we got jutsus like Hashirama Shuriken Shadow Clone Jutsu, or the last Naruto's clone Rasengans. You got Yugito's tilt, Nagato's tilt, and so many of these things are they're just outright broken. And these are the things that are essentially preventing Storm 4 from becoming a competitive title, and they render it flat out unplayable in some cases. Like, if you have to ban 50% of the roster for tournaments, then that really speaks volumes about the game. And the best part is, all of this can be easily nerfed and easily fixed. Like, these problems are by no means irreparable. They are absolutely within the scope of CC2's ability. Like, exerting even a modicum of effort to dial up the support, I think that would have gone a long way, honestly. But yeah, anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. So we don't know if Storm 5 will have completely new characters, like only Boruto era characters, or if they'll just recycle the entire roster from Storm 4. But for some reason, I personally don't see that happening, even though we shouldn't rule anything out with CC2. I just personally highly doubt this Boruto game will have Zetsu Obito or like, the Mass Man or something like that. I feel like they'll make a fresh start, which should, in theory, make balancing this game less of an issue. Now, I know that balance is like a broad term, but you get the point. Like, also, imagine if they just shamelessly recycle the characters from Storm 4 without changing any of their movesets. Like, I wouldn't mind it for the characters that were actually, like new characters from Storm Revolution and 4, but Storm 4 has so many characters whose movesets haven't been changed since Storm 2. You know, like Jiraiya, Orochimaru, Tsunade, Itachi. Like Itachi had a whole ass fight versus, like with Kabuto in the war and versus Naruto. Yet he only got a one new costume and a new ultimate. No new moveset, nothing. While other characters get insane new animations, cinematic finishers, more creative combos, Itachi was stuck with his Storm 2 moveset, which, don't get me wrong, isn't bad per se, but it's just clearly outdated, and this goes for like every Storm 2 and Generations character. Like, I mean, it's simply noticeable, it's clearly visible. You can see a difference between a Storm 4 character and a Storm 3 character, for example. I mean, I can get behind them keeping Hidan's moveset or Sasori's moveset since they haven't really shown anything new, but Itachi, Jiraiya, Orochimaru, like, imagine shamelessly just recycling these movesets again in 2023 for a Boruto game. Like, it would be criminal, which is why I hope, or well, I don't think it'll happen in the first place, but I also wouldn't put it past them, so yeah. Oh, and also, for the love of God, don't remove or change the leader switch mechanic. Like, we don't need this game to be stripped of its, like, arguably its most important feature. Like, I really don't think I need to talk about the adverse effects that would come with removing this feature, right? And this goes hand in hand with another issue. Like, I would say that 80% of Storm's tech comes from the leader switch mechanic, which was introduced in Storm 4. Like, advanced players have made use of this mechanic so unfathomably well that it just works wonders. Like, people say stuff like, the switch tech is actually a glitch. And honestly, I'm not going to fully deny that, because knowing CC2, it's incredibly likely that they had no idea what they were even doing when they made the Switch tech the way it is. And it has so many intricacies and subtleties and ways to do insane things. And even if it is a massive glitch, which I can't really say it's a glitch. It's, parts of it are definitely intentional. Like, the fact that players have capitalized on it so well proves just how insane this game can be. And also, like I said, I'm not saying it's a glitch, but I feel like a lot of the features that the Switch mechanic has are kind of, unintentional. But you can definitely see that thought went into it, right? Unlike in Demon Slayer and many other titles where the switch is just a mechanic used for, well, switching to a different character and that's it. So Storm's mechanics, and this might be I don't want to say a slippery slope, but it might be a hot take. So Storm's mechanics sometimes rival DMC in terms of complexity. And I know this is a weird analogy since DMC isn't a fighting game and doesn't have online, but, at least it's renowned for its meticulously crafted mechanics, like this mechanical depth and complexity. And I mean, if you're a true fan of the DMC series, I think, if you follow Combo Mads and all these advanced players, you'll know just how much freedom DMC gives you. Well, Storm 4 is just like that with its Switch tech, but nobody fucking knows about it. It's not very well known. So why is that? Why is it that everyone thinks that Storm is a mashing game and a noob game when it has so much complexity? Well, for starters, and trust me, this ties into another big issue. People who get into Storm usually just spam, they mash, and they spam S tier characters like Danzo or Nagato because it's an easy win. And a lot of games have broken shit and OP characters, but in Storm, some of these characters can be like difficult to fight even for advanced players who play the game religiously and are completely in tune with its mechanics. And I feel like that's simply ludicrous, right? Like, people just fucking spam because it works 90% of the time. And thus, Storm is regarded as a mashing game because nobody really tries to master the mechanics. Like, I've seen so many zoners who are just static and they just stay in one place and spam Donzo's tilt. Like, sure, spamming like that can be easily circumvented if you know what you're doing, but if you're a slightly skilled spammer, this can pose an issue. And this is all owing to CC2 simply refusing to patch this game. Like, Storm 4 is the most tragic game in terms of wasted potential. Like, Xenoverse 2 had like 500 DLC characters. I'm exaggerating, obviously, but you get the point. Fighters, Jump Force even, every game. Like, Storm players always get the short end of the stick, every single time. Like, Storm 4 had 3 Season Pass DLCs, two of which were just old costumes and Team Ultimate Jutsus, and one Season Pass DLC was just the Sound 4, which should have been in the game since Storm 1, but yeah, I digress. Then we got Road to Boruto, where we got two new Borutos, one new Sarada, a new Naruto, a new Sasuke, and Mitsuki. Oh, and Mecha Naruto from Revolution. How could I forget that guy? And then 2 years later, we got Momoshiki and Kinshiki, who should have been in the expansion from the get-go, because they're like the main villains. And to make matters worse, they were literally almost playable. They had everything except for the down combo, up combo, grab, and ultimate jutsu. Like, they literally had everything else. Voice lines, ninja moves, you name it. I literally have no idea why they added them so late in the game. Oh, and to add insult to injury, when Momoshiki and Kinshiki got released, the game got destroyed. Like, the Switch tech no longer worked the way it was supposed to, and everybody was, handicapped. And it really wasn't until, like, players complained, it wasn't until then that, that CC2 fixed the issue, which is how it's supposed to be, by the way. Like, if your fans are complaining, you should dial in on your efforts or double down on your efforts to fix the issue. You should try to one-up yourself and not do this. Like, it's seriously, like, really tragic how CC2 has neglected their most beloved entry in the franchise, honestly. And it simply doesn't compute with me why they would leave it for dead. Like, it's like they got a libido for failure, honestly. And I think it really underscores just how lazy CC2 is. And I think it's their laziness that might be the thing that will jeopardize this upcoming game. It's kind of funny because, like, most companies are just predatory and greedy, and it's greed that's like the indictment of the gaming industry. But if CC2 really wanted money, I'm sure they could have simply released a ton of new playable characters, which would sell like hotcakes, honestly. But they didn't. So if you do this for Storm 5 as well, then, it's your funeral, because success becomes way more elusive that way. But I will give credit where it's due. Their talent is seriously nothing to scoff at. They've proved time and time again that they're perfectly capable of creating an amazing game. So, why relegate yourself and your games to this state? Like, they just make some really nonsensical decisions that ultimately impinge on the game itself. And it's like they're up in their ivory tower, not even knowing what it is that the players want. Like, when they decided that adventure mode was more important for a fighting game than adding new playable characters. Like, who the fuck wanted that? But, yeah, anyway, that's only one of the reasons Storm is, stigmatized and labeled as a mashing game. The other reason is that the YouTubers who play this game, like popular Storm YouTubers, are very mid, and they're below average, actually, subpar. And all they do is scream and yell, and even if they do love the game, they kind of suck. I mean, I get that being vivacious attracts a large audience and that entertainment is important, but I've seen them at tournaments, and yeah, they simply suck. Like, randoms I faced on PC like years ago were way better, and it really doesn't take a lot to see that if you know how to play the game. However, people who watch these YouTube channels for some reason get the impression that these guys are gods, that this is the pinnacle of gameplay. But, yeah, they're blissfully unaware of what this game has to offer. And, like, these people, they just dash into nowhere, they run out of subs, they forget to charge their chakra. Like, I'm not going to be naming any of them, but we all know who the most popular Storm YouTubers are. And don't get me wrong, I enjoy their content. It can be entertaining, but the advanced players, like, they're usually a lot more unassuming, with the exception of Mr. Air Force, and Yamanaka's Poison, who, both of these channels also have a miserable amount of subscribers compared to these popular YouTubers. But with the exception of these two, there's no one to actually witness this top level play, right? Like, I'm friends with one of the best players in the world, and seeing some of the matches of advanced players is like crack. It's so intense and so fun to watch, but people don't even know about it. Like, they think that just dashing and spamming jutsus and wasting subs is the name of the game, and it's seriously lamentable, honestly. And on top of that, there's also this influx of these YouTubers, like, armchair critics, who I'm also not going to name, who speak like they're experts at the game, and they speak very matter-of-factly about it. And I mean, look, I'm also kind of like an armchair critic. I mean, I just talk shit about everything and vent, so yeah. But these people, who I'm also not going to be naming, like you said, they complain about how jumping and air guarding is a huge issue in the game. How the substitution should be removed or dialed down to 2 subs, which would be a recipe for disaster, but oh well. I don't even want to humor that idea, honestly. Like, yeah, but yeah, just all around horrible takes from people who know fuck all about the game, and it's abundantly clear that this whole Storm thing is simply not in their wheelhouse. And look, I'm not an advanced player, but holy shit, I mean, I can see it. My friends can see it. And yet, these people talk like they're experts. And them being so vocal causes people to believe that, yeah, Storm is bad, it's broken, and if Bandai listens to them and makes this game any more noob-friendly than it already is, then we're all kind of getting screwed, honestly. But like I said, I know the developers try to, like, they try and appeal to a wider demographic so as to cash in, but I seriously don't want them to pander noobs. I don't want this game to be tailored to these kinds of players who know next to nothing about the game, and I seriously don't want CC2 to shoot for the low-hanging fruit and make another, nothing burger, because like I said, if they do, they're on a trajectory to fail. Like, they run the risk of this becoming some, bottom-of-the-barrel product, which is a bad thing. No shit. But yeah, Storm 4 has already sold itself short, and they didn't capitalize on the game's limitless potential. But yeah, that's simply how the cookie crumbles. Also, these YouTubers are very prone to saying that Demon Slayer Hinokami Chronicles is way better than Storm 4, like the perfect Storm, the polished version of Storm. And that's a sentiment that I'm viscerally opposed to, and that just, really just cements what I've been saying, because if anything, Demon Slayer is a very streamlined version of Storm. I'm not saying you shouldn't like this game. In fact, it's probably one of the best anime fighting games out there, especially considering how most anime games are just giant snooze fests. But, comparing it to Storm, let alone saying that it's better, is just blasphemy. Now, with all due respect, I get that everyone's entitled to their own opinion, and everybody has the right to be vocal about it, but holy shit, like, this game has no cinematic combo finishers. Like, they only exist in Awakenings, and only for your neutral combo. Not to mention that the subsystem sucks, like, you only have one sub, if I recall correctly, and it's essentially a contest of who can strike first, because once you strike someone, it's very easy to just keep stringing your various techniques. Like, Rengoku, for example, you just do Jutsu 1, Jutsu 2, and then cancel into your ultimate, rinse and repeat, and this is all under the guise of complexity, right? This is the illusion of choice, if that makes any sense. Like, I've seen people talking about how they feel like Demon Slayer allows them to do more than Storm because it has more combo potential, even though this combo potential essentially just boils down to stringing jutsus, and that's all, and cancels. Like, that's the name of the game. In Storm, things aren't that glaringly obvious, but they're a lot more complex, and, but since you can win easily in Storm by simply spamming and staying static, people get the impression that Storm is just a mashing game, whereas Demon Slayer has all this complexity that requires more input. Now, I don't want to talk about the same thing ad nauseum, but let me just elaborate on the whole, polarizing thing. So, like I said, Storm is, and has always been, like, for the longest time, it's been a very contentious topic, and you got plenty of people who want this to be a 2D game, or want it to be more like Demon Slayer, like I said. And some of these people tend to get very hostile if you don't see eye to eye with them. Like, they'll go postal. And this is just a huge pet peeve for me. Like, my friend said how he just, wanted an ever so slightly more balanced Storm 4 with more characters, which is honestly a humble opinion. It's nothing too extravagant. But he got so heavily reprimanded for having that opinion. He got dogpiled by people going apeshit, saying, is that all you want for this mediocre game? I don't mean to burst your bubble, but this game's gonna suck. You think this game's gonna be all fine and dandy? Fat chance. No way, Jose. No siree. Like, holy fucking shit, take a fucking chill pill. Like, I'm sorry, like, I really don't know how to break this to you, but the game has not even been officially announced yet, and you're already calling it mediocre. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I said, I'm very skeptical and pessimistic about a lot of things. And this whole Storm 5 thing instills a lot of doubt in me because it's CC2, and they are known for fiascos when it comes to living up to expectations. Like, that Jump Festa debacle where everyone was expecting some major news for Storm 4, but they just ended up saying, yeah, we released the Momoshiki and Kinshiki DLC 8 months ago. Yeah, just reminding you it exists. Like, you cannot make this shit up, but yeah, whatever, But to say that that a game is mediocre before it's even officially announced, it's just extraordinarily stupid. And whenever you ask these people what it is that they don't like about Storm, it's always some bullshit like, the subs make it a noob's game, or you can just spam jutsus, or, it's just broken, man. Like, you can see that their critical faculties ain't all there. But, I mean, I get where some of them are coming from. Like, actual experienced players who simply got tired of the game getting zero support. But, I have this lingering feeling that most of these players, most of these people are just people who don't even know the first thing about the game and have like 10 to 20 hours in the game. And, they just run out of subs immediately and then get salty and rage quit. I've seen it happen so many times that it's insane. And this is also applicable to the active members of the Storm community because the Storm community is the most toxic community on the planet. And I can make a separate video on that, and honestly, it deserves a psychoanalytical dissertation. Like, the Storm community isn't exactly something I pride myself on being a part of, and a lot of people feel the same way. Like, it's bedeviled by people who are just dumb as a box of rocks. So there's some YouTube channels like Storm players who literally just talk shit about every player they face. They take screenshots of every win, and it's just all around unsightly. Like, so many insufferable assholes, it's unreal. But, I don't want to go through the rigmarole of having to explain the darkest depths of the Storm community, because, you've got players who are decent at the game, but they have some weird takes. Like, for example, in Storm, 30 FPS is better than 60 FPS, and that's a fact. But some people think otherwise, so CyberConnect 2 divided the player base into 30 FPS and 60 FPS, and the game is simply meant to be played at 30 because the animations look weird in 60 FPS. There are a lot more glitches, but some people prefer that. Like, for crying out loud, why would you do that? What in tarnation were they thinking? No one benefits from this. No cap. Dead ass. On God. Like, for real. I don't even know, man. Anyway, before we even get into the mechanical aspects of the upcoming game, we need to know exactly what we're dealing with here. Like I said, we have no idea to what degree this game is gonna be Storm. Like, Demon Slayer Storm, Jump Force Storm. Are we talking about the concept or the engine and the mechanics? Like, and also, assuming that this game will follow the events of Boruto, is it going to follow the anime or the manga? Personally, my bet is on the manga, since there's less to adapt, and the anime has, far too many arcs that are, anime canon. But that would also mean that we most likely won't get characters like Denki, Iwabe, Sumire, Wasabi, Namida, Urashiki, and all that. Now, I'm going to keep it a $1.50. I don't much care for the new generation. Not even the Inoshika Cho or Metal Lee or anything. Shinki looks kind of dope. And aside from Team 7, Kawaki, and yeah, Shinki, everyone else kind of feels just like a carbon copy of their parents, and I just kind of don't care about them. Which brings us to my wish list for this game. So, assuming that they will not be recycling the same characters from the previous Storm games, I would like to see Naruto, Baryon Mode Naruto, Sasuke, Sakura, Boruto, preferably up to like 4 variations, maybe even more, because, Boruto's got so many jutsus, like, in the anime, and, like, they're gonna have a field day making his moveset, I'm pretty sure of it. Hanabi, Sarada, Mitsuki, definitely give us Sage Mode Mitsuki, at least as an awakening. Shikadai, Inojin, Chocho, Metal Lee, Shinki, Adal Konohamaru, Shin Uchiha, Toneri, like CC2, you owe us Toneri. Like, I was so livid when they didn't add him to Storm 4, but anyway, let's keep going. Momoshiki, Kenshiki, Ishiki. I'd like to see Urashiki too. Kawaki, Jigen, of course, and yeah, he should be a separate character from Ishiki, obviously. Delta, Boro, Kashinkoji, Code, Ada, Damon, Ao, Chojuro, Kurotsuchi, Gara, Darui, and possibly Iwabe, Denki, Sumire, Wasabi, and Namida. So giving new movesets to the old Konoha 11 would be most desirable, but like I said, I've learned to keep my expectations at the bare minimum when it comes to CC2, so I'm kind of desensitized, you know? But I feel like I'll be slightly indifferent no matter what happens at this point, because if I keep my hopes up, if I get my hopes up, I'll be all the more disappointed when they don't deliver. So, you know, like I remember being actually genuinely shocked that, you know, the last Naruto and Sasuke turned out to be actual playable characters and not just half-hearted costumes, you know. That was like completely weird to me. But yeah, I'm hopeful that this game will be the perfect storm. But the pessimist slash realist inside me, you know, hardened by a decade of mental gymnastics by CC2, simply, you know, can't help but feel like, you know, like it's nothing but wishful thinking, you know, like pie in the sky, and that in all likelihood CC2 is going to release another mundane game, and, you know, the prospect of that happening is seriously not an alluring one. And, you know, especially since they've pulled this shit one too many times, honestly. But, you know, we'll just have to wait and see how it all pans out. I don't want to rain on anyone's parade yet, because like I said, I am hopeful. And we have yet to see the official announcement. We don't know when the official announcement will drop, but if I had to hazard a guess, it'll most likely be in the form of a scan, like a V-Jump or something. Maybe they'll reveal it during Jump Festa or something, like, you know, but then we'll have to wait for a trailer and then some gameplay footage, and only then will we have a rough understanding, like a ballpark estimate of what to expect. Even though early gameplay footage isn't really much to go by, since the game is liable to change during its, you know, the developmental phase. But yeah. Anyway, Yamanaka's Poison, or Poison Okami, whatever you want to call him, he's an advanced Storm player, and he has been noticed by Bandai. Like, he's not exactly in cahoots with them, but they actually listened to him when he asked them to patch the game, you know, after Momoshiki and Kinshiki fucked up the Switch tech, you know, the DLC. And they even commented on one of his videos, so they're definitely listening and reading. So he released a video where he basically, you know, galvanizes, he basically urges people to, like, state their wishes for this Storm game in the comments below. And it's likely that Bandai will see what we want, and they might take stock of it. So I'll leave the link to the video in the description below, so, you know, make sure to just comment what you want for this game, since, you know, what you say might have some bearing on Bandai's decisions. And as we all know, their decisions will ultimately reflect positively or negatively on the game itself. So, you know, our feedback and wishes could go a long way, which is pretty reassuring, honestly. So yeah, do it for the greater good. But yeah, I feel like we're all going to be on tenterhooks until we get some gameplay footage at least, and I just don't want us to take another L. Like, they should really seize this opportunity. They shouldn't squander it again, and, you know, because everything's riding on this one game, and yeah. But yeah, that's the state of affairs right now. We'll just have to wait and see how this unfolds, and, you know, I mean, look, say what you will about CyberConnect 2, but if you look at the status quo, you'll quickly realize that they're basically the last bastion of normalcy for anime games. I mean, everyone's shying away, not just from arena fighters, but just console anime games as a whole. Like, we're only getting mobile games or some RPGs. Like, we don't have that many anime fighting games, and when we get anime fighting games, they're usually just really, really bad. So I will put stock in their ability. And if CC2 gets this right, I am willing to exonerate them for all their previous wrongs. And I mean, who knows, maybe this is the next best thing, but yeah. So yeah, I think that's gonna do it for this video. So if you liked the video, like it. If you didn't, dislike it. Tell me what you think in the comments below. I'm incredibly curious at this point. So yeah. And as always, people, see ya, peace out, and have an amazing day.